how to play in the back of a large orchestra section. Playing in the back is not easy. Let's say you're in the back of Violin 1, you probably are going to be sitting near the edge of the stage, probably with 3 or 4 stands directly in front of you, with other instruments pretty far away from you. On the other hand, if you are in the middle or towards the back of the viola or violin 2 section, well, the good news is that the other players are much closer to you, so you can hear the sense of the ensemble much better. However, let's say the orchestra is playing something really loud, like Shostakovich or Wagner, you might become the direct target of the brass section, or if you're the inside player of violin 2, the piccolo player. Yikes, that's like a few feet away from you. Just in case, bring some earplugs or headphone, earbud on the left side if you're in violin 2. Just in case, protect the most important and most valuable asset that you have as a musician. Probably the most important advice I can give you for playing well from the back, it's to adjust your chair and your stand. Make an agreement with your stand partner and other players that are probably sitting nearby you, maybe they're in another section, so that everybody has enough room to play, and at the same time have a good sightline of the principal player's bow, whether that's the concertmaster, principal second, principal viola, and at the same time be able to see the conductor's baton. This is one of the first things to do when you get to your seat before any session begins. If you happen to be in the second row of first violins, like let's say there are 4 or 5 stands of firsts, but there are more stands than that need to fit on stage, so there's a second row, you might be in luck, because usually it's often much easier to see the concertmaster and the conductor at the same time from that second row. Of course, some orchestras provide platforms and risers for players in the back so they can see better, which is awesome. But if you're like most folks, you probably played most of your concerts, if not all of them, without any risers for the back players in the strings. So once you have adjusted your chair and your stand the best you can, follow these 5 guidelines. Number 1, this is very important, is to follow the front desk of your section and not the desk directly in front of you. By the way, I'm using the terms stand and desk in this video interchangeably. It really means the same thing. I know some people use one more than the other. For me, it's all the same. The reason to follow the front desk and not the stand in front of you is to prevent drag in tempo. Imagine if the second stand follows the first, the third stand follows the second, the fourth stand you see where I'm going with this? It turns into a domino effect, and what happens is that the back of the section is not together with the first stand if you follow whoever's in front of you. So it's important, whether you're second stand, sixth stand, eighth stand, you follow that front stand when everybody's playing the same part. Now, if you absolutely cannot get yourself to see the principal's bow, at the very least, follow the assistant principal. In fact, there are cases where that's even more useful. Let's say the concertmaster has a solo and the assistant is responsible to bring in the rest of the section to play the tutti part. Number 2, and goes together with the first, is to be super on top of rhythm and listen extra carefully to the rest of the orchestra, especially if you're in violin 1. So often the first violin section tends to rush, and surprise, there's usually a wind player playing the same melody as first violin, and sometimes I'm sitting in the second violin section and there's a flute player to my left and the first violin player to my right, and they're not together, and it's unbelievable. So it's important, and I think it's the distance that makes it extra challenging. So it's important to listen really carefully and know what's going on in the rest of the orchestra. So if you don't have time to score study, at least have an idea of what to listen for. Now, many of the folks who are watching this video are probably either playing in their school orchestra, community orchestra, or maybe in a freelance orchestra. If you notice that the desk in front of you is obviously rushing or dragging the tempo, or maybe they seem completely lost, try your best to emphasize the correct rhythm by matching that front stand and with the general sense of the ensemble the best you can, while at the same time not being the loudest player in the section. And this can be really challenging, but it can be very useful in rehearsal. On the flip side, if you feel totally lost, then listen to your section and find a place where you can hop back on, possibly at the start of the next phrase or when the texture in the music changes. If you would like extra help with your orchestra music, shoot me an email and we can set up a free consultation and book some lessons to get you going on the path of becoming a more confident orchestral musician. Number 3 is to blend your sound. We want to blend with the section, but at the same time play assertively and with courage. Don't fake your way through unless you absolutely have to. Let's say you are anticipating missing a particularly exposed note or two. Here's an example of this. Usually this passage sounds like a mess because it's not together rather than people missing notes. Now, if your part looks something like this is Wagner's Ride of the Valkyries, you have my permission to fake in this. So long as the rhythm is in place and the general harmony is expressed. Strive to play with the same kind of energy whether you're on the 2nd or 6th stand. Number 4, do your best to get bowing changes at rehearsal. Communicate with the middle stand so that they do their job well to pass back the bowings. I've played in many groups where this communication stops at the 3rd desk. If needed, wait until a break in rehearsal to catch up on bowings with the front stand. Number 5 is to match articulation and play in the correct part of the bow. I cannot stress enough how important this is to create a beautiful group sound. I see so often, even in some professional groups, where people in the back are so glued to their music that they don't realize the concertmaster is playing that Mozart accompaniment 8th notes at the tip while they are somewhere in the balance point. When it comes to articulation, try to match the length of those phrase ends especially. Don't continue playing the last note while everybody else has stopped. On the flip side, if everybody is playing long, full value 8th notes, don't be playing them short and off the string. This is a very common mistake. Sometimes it happens because maybe we have listened to a particular recording and it's gotten ingrained into our mind. But then suddenly, during rehearsal, we need to become flexible to a different interpretation. The quality of the orchestra that we listen to versus the one we are playing in, they're going to be different. So as any musician, this is for any player in any section, it's so important to be flexible to different interpretation to play well with an orchestra. I can go on and on about this topic, and I'm sure I left out a bunch of things. Now, if you found this video helpful, you might want to watch this one next. It's all about how to prepare for that first orchestra rehearsal, especially when you don't have a whole lot of time to practice. Let me know your biggest takeaway in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell, sign up for my free newsletter, and happy practicing.